All right, so we got it here. Had a couple bit of troubles along the way. Um, we had a tarp over the front windshield, and we didn't think about it blowing back as far as it did to actually push the car into park while I was towing it. It only happened for about maybe 5 minutes or so. I was driving down the street. I was probably about 2 hours into the trip, and the wind caught it. And then I looked back. I'm like, why is it so hard to tow now? Like, well, what's going on? And then I realized there was a shit ton of smoke coming out the back end. And I was like, oh no, I blew up my transmission, or I blew up the differential. Everything's locking up. Blah blah blah, all this stuff. And I go back and I stop right in front of this person's house, and in the middle of the road. And I get out and I see that the tarp that we had over the windshield had actually pushed back and put it in a park, which made the wheels drag. But we still ended up having a flat spot, which caused a lot of vibration and a lot of road noise on the way up here. So we need to adjust that. We need to change the shifter, not because we're going to tow it again with a tarp on it in the front anymore, but because it needs to be done. Another thing that we need to do is, while we were putting the hood on, we realized that the placement of the radiator was in the way of actually getting the hood fully on top of the car. It was sitting up a little too high, so we have to make new brackets for the front radiator and weld them back on, and make sure that's all clearing with the hood. Even though I'm not going to run the hood all the time, but I am going to run it when I go to different events and stuff, and then take it off once I get there, because those are going to house my headlights and everything else. And I also got to fix the plates for the pins, or the hood pins that hold it down. I forgot that when I came up, I had actually brought the hood latches and everything like that, the pins to secure stuff, everything like that. I brought that with me. And so while I was down there, I ended up using a potato chip bag clip and the tops of mason jars. And that also didn't work out too well for me. But we're gonna address a couple of those things. We're gonna clean up a few things that are nice and rusty, like our brake reservoir. Also got to figure out what's wrong with the brakes. They're still feeling squishy, and I keep bleeding them. They're still squishy, so I'm gonna have to probably figure out how to get a vacuum system on that and pull a whole bunch of fluid through and just get rid of all the air bubbles that are trapped in there. So with how the car is set up now, I'm gonna have to actually pull it out. I'm gonna have to turn it around and back it up in. So now with the moved around, we can address these nice bad boys and actually be able to see. I'm gonna have to grind this down. I do have to paint this, so I'm probably gonna take the radiator off and paint it, and get all this nice and cleaned up. And as always, it starts like a beaut because I'm a genius. Also, yesterday I actually ground down the transmission bell housing. There's a little notch that basically goes to the underside to cover the bottom, but I'm not running that for this car, so I had to cut off that notch that bolts to be able to run this down and get it away from all these transmission lines and all the vacuum hose and stuff, and blowing flames right on top of it. So the fun stuff. All right, so the first thing I'm going to address is this problem right there. What I had previously was not working out so well. So I am taking a nice little aluminum spacer that came with my aluminum bracket for my alternator relocating kit. I want to take this because it was for the power steering pump. I'm not running power steering on this. I'm going to run electronic steering. And this right here is something that I've had for a decent amount of time. This is a piece of metal cut off that was used for a rocket for NASA. So my dad got this to me. He usually gives me a whole bunch of random knickknacks and everything. Sorry about the lawnmower. But yeah, no, he gives me knickknacks and everything from the Rocket. So we're gonna use this inside of here. Oh, if I can do it. This inside of here. And we're gonna make our own little bearing. Because this right here is aluminum. And this, I believe, is steel. So we're gonna weld the rod to this and then put this through the middle and sandwich it so there's not as much play. There still is a little bit of play, but a lot less than what's in there now. So let's get to that. So basically, our goal is to make this slightly on each edge so that this can spin freely, but not tilt back and forth like this. If we had it how it is now, it would tilt back and forth. We want to make that as tight as possible without being the same size. So I'm gonna go and try to sand this down until it's how I like it, where it has like no clearance on either side, barely. So let's go ahead and do that. So what I ended up doing was pressing that against the angle grinder because this would take way too long. But now I got the clearance where I want it to be so that it is barely, I got the clearance where I wanted it to be, where it's barely on either edge. I'm gonna clean this up and we're gonna see how well that works. Let's go. All right, so this is what I came up with. So it's nice and sandwiched, and once it tightens down, it has like no clearance to wobble back and forth. So this right here is gonna go in there with the bolt on the other side. Now I gotta take this out. I'm gonna cut that right there where that circle is, and I'm going to weld it on either side of this to get a better angle on the shifter, because right now it just sticks straight up. I'm gonna cut the shifter down to a nice size that I feel comfortable with, and we're gonna put everything back. So let's get to it. All right, so now I got the shifter out, my custom, no wire, no fancy stuff. This is all redneck cheap stuff right here. This previous hole that I drilled for the bearing, it did not work out well. Also, you can see that it's kind of bending. So basically I'm gonna chop this in half, and I'm going to weld that onto the nice steel, titanium, whatever this is, with my rinky-dink Harbor Freight welder. So I'm gonna get to cleaning these up so we can weld it. So let's get to it. Yeah, God dang. So it went from some of my best to some of my worst, but it's solid for now. It's just be able to shift it now and do all that good stuff. But let's get it mounted in the car and see how well it works, and see if it's a lot sturdier than what I had before. Because if that's the case, then who cares about the welds? It's better than what it was. So let's get it. That is a lot better. So this is everything put together, and it's a lot more stable. A lot more stable. And I can select the gears a lot better. Last time the gears were just wobbly as hell. It was hard to get into one gear. Now that's a lot better. Now that we have a nice solid shifter, I'm gonna cut that down later into better shortage because I don't need it that long. But now, since I got the welder out, I can weld these brackets for the radiator, because right now the only thing holding it is all the tubes going to it, and that's no bueno. So I got to cut all these off, all these brackets to the fan and everything else, and we're going to take off the radiator, mount that up, or fab it up, and then put the radiator back on, and hopefully it's in a good position to put the hood on. So let's go do that. Oh yeah, we got liquid. That's good. Yep. Probably a good idea to wash this out. I already did it, but I don't have an industrial cleaner, so I didn't get all this nice goo out. So refreshing this and probably just pumping it out would probably be a good idea. Just run some cleaner through it. So we're gonna do that while we do this, and it should be all right. Now that we got all the bands loose on the coolant side, now we got to do the transmission lines, which is that one and that one down there. I believe these are 14 millimeters. This is going to be a mess. Also, this one isn't tightened all the way. It's weird. It's not acting right, so I'm going to redo the Teflon tape on this and put them in, and I'm going to try to get my AN line down there, because I only have the one AN line up here, but not down there. That's still a hard line. So let's see what we can do. Let's undo this. I just ran it, so it's going to get everywhere. So that's going to be nice. So this one down here is actually a 13. So we're going to take this off. Low cooler off. Oh, glad I got that on camera. Okay. We're going to do too much change. That sucks. Nice. Not too bad, actually. Could be worse, I guess. I don't know. Is there a better brown color? But like I said, we're going to flush it all out. So I'm going to have it running and pumping water through it. So, yep. Let's get it done. Now, this should just come off. Thank you. More spills. More cool beans. Get this out of the way there. I'm going to redo these because this looks like it is leaking out of one of the plug holes. Let's see what we can do. They are not the prettiest of welds, but they are strong as shit. Bitches ain't going nowhere. So now all we gotta do is fab this up, clean it, get the radiator mount in place, attach the radiator, and see if everything fits. Let's get it. Alrighty, now everything is nice and sturdy. This ain't going nowhere. And everything clears still, and I have enough space to put my coolant temperature gauge so I can see how hot everything is. So that's nice. Everything's tightened up. This is not fitting correctly, but I'll figure that out. Don't mind that. This is getting replaced because it's going to be actually rear mounted. I'm just doing this for all the testing purposes and everything else. So yeah, good stuff. Let's get it. Alrighty, everything's set to go. I got all the clamps done. Now we're gonna go over there and we're gonna fill it up with some water. I got my coolant gauge right there. Oh, I got my coolant gauge right there. It's not secure on anything, so it's probably gonna fall in the first like 5 seconds. But at least we'll know if we're getting some temperature stuff and good things. So let's get over here. So it's this. Good stuff. Well, I think that's gonna wrap up the video. Didn't get everything I wanted done, but we still did get a decent amount of stuff done. It ran thermostat. I didn't run it long enough. It was kind of bouncy and I didn't feel right driving it, but I'll check it out after I try to figure out what's up with the alignment. But yeah, no, that radiator is nice and mounted. Don't got to worry about that anymore. Redid the fan, redid the oil cooler, so all the good stuff. Redid that shifter. That shifter feels so nice. It's not so touchy anymore, and it's easy to use now. But there's my dog who just got off the leash. Turd, freaking. What are you doing, Rayla? But I'll see you guys in another one.